US airstrikes on Friday appear to have collapsed a tower at Iran's Chabahar Port on the Gulf of Oman, a key trade route for Afghanistan.
Pete Hegseth has shared a picture of a damaged Chabahar maritime tower, and this after the United States intensified its military campaign against Iran with fresh strikes targeting the southeastern port city of Chabahar, where a watchtower at the strategic Shahid port.
Now, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared the image of the surveillance tower appearing to collapse. That image has circulated social media via activists prior to Hegseth sharing it. Chabahar Port has been a repeated target of American airstrikes recently. Iranian states media acknowledged a third round of strikes on the facility without immediately acknowledging the tower's collapse. Now, Chabahar Port, as you all know, is a vital port for India's connectivity to Afghanistan and Central Asia. But sanctions and geopolitical tensions threaten its strategic future for India. Now, this comes even as New Delhi already grapples with the impact of US sanctions on the strategically vital port project, in which it had invested billions of dollars. Now, the question is, was the Indian terminal damaged? And to answer this, the Ministry of External Affairs has clarified that the terminal India operates at Chabahar Port, which is Shahid Beheshti, was not damaged in the US strikes. It stated that while there were reports of damage, the terminal itself remained unaffected. India reiterated its position that civilian infrastructure should not be targeted during conflicts. Now, India's stakes in Chabahar are a lot. See, Chabahar Port has two main terminals, if you have to understand it correctly: Shahid Beheshti and Shahid Kalantri. And India manages the former one, which is Shahid Beheshti. Now, it is operated by India Port Global Limited, IPGL, a wholly owned subsidiary of India Ports Global Chabahar Free Zone, IPGCFZ, under a 10-year renewable agreement with Iran's Port and Maritime Organization. Now, there is a very big strategic rationale that why we are putting in billions of rupees in Chabahar Port. See, first of all, Chabahar offers India an alternative trade route to Afghanistan, thereby bypassing Pakistan altogether, which does not permit Indian goods transit through its territory. Now, for Iran, Chabahar is its only oceanic port with a direct access to Indian Ocean, bypassing the congested Strait of Hormuz. Now, in 2024 contract, India and Iran signed a landmark 10-year contract in May 2024, replacing earlier short-term arrangements to equip and operate the Shahid Beheshti terminal. Now, to avoid financial penalties from the US sanctions, India prepaid its $120 million investment and transferred its operational stake at Shahid Beheshti to local entities. And which is why now the problems could much well be solved than earlier. Now, let us understand about history of US sanctions on Chabahar Port, because that is very vital for us to understand when we talk about India's strategic alliance or significance with Chabahar. See, American sanctions on Chabahar stems from Washington's broader economic and military measures against Tehran. See, the Trump administration withdrew the US from Iran's nuclear deal in 2018 and imposed sanctions on dealing with Iran. However, it simultaneously granted a targeted sanction waiver for Chabahar to support humanitarian and economic efforts in Afghanistan, given the port's role in delivering Indian wheat and medical supplies there. Now, in September 2025, the US withdrew its waiver, then reinstated it through a 6-month waiver in October, which officially expired in April 26. Now, following the waiver's expiry, India has been in discussions with the relevant stakeholders on how to proceed, but is effectively losing direct operational control over the Chabahar project as a result. See, Chabahar project and Chabahar port is very much strategically important for India. Chabahar provides a secure direct access to Afghanistan and Central Asia. It serves as a counterweight to China's Gwadar port in Pakistan, which is located just 140 km away. It forms part of the international north-south transport corridor, which is a multimodal transport network connecting India with Iran, Russia, Europe and Central Asia, which is why strategically it is very vital, very important for India. But it is much more important for Iran as well. And Chabahar, it is strategically important for Iran in multiple ways. Chabahar is a crucial economic hub for the Sistan Baluchistan province, serving as a gateway connecting Iran to landlocked Central Asian states which are Afghanistan and Russia. Now it simply means that strategically Chabahar is very important for India as well as Iran itself. Now let us try to understand what has been India's investments so far in that particular region. Since the year 2021, our External Affairs Minister S.J. Shankar informed Parliament that grant assistance for equipment supply to Chabahar had been enhanced to $120 million. India committed a line of credit of around $250 million in rupee equivalent for the port's development. Now since 2018, the port has handled over 450 vessels, around 134,082 TEUs of containerized cargoes and more than 8.7 million tons of bulk and general cargo. Now India had already supplied port equipment worth about $24 million with the procurement of remaining equipment underway. See, we need to understand that the future hangs in balance. Chabahar received an allocation of around 400 crores in the previous financial year, but the union budget of 2026-27 made no allocation for the port, raising questions about the future of the strategic trade route to Afghanistan and Central Asia. See, why this matters to us is that without Chabahar, India loses its primary non-Pakistani corridor, and also undoing decades of connectivity planning, it would be a huge loss to India. See, the port had reduced transit times by 40% and costs by nearly a third. The situation raises strategic concerns for India if China, via the China-Pakistan economic corridor and Gwadar, expands its geopolitical footprint in Iran. So the lapse of the Chabahar waiver by default tilts the regional balance towards China and Pakistan, which is why Chabahar embodies India's long-term vision of connectivity beyond Pakistan. But its fate remains entangled in the broader US-Iran standoff. See, with sanction waivers lapsed and budgetary support withdrawn, India risks losing not just an infrastructure investment, but strategic ground to China and Pakistan in a critical geopolitical space. Which is why, from this entire discussion, we can very clearly say, strategically, economically, trade-related and geopolitics-wise as well, Chabahar Port is most crucial for India, is very vital for Iran, and very fundamental in our trade connectivity. See, while significance we have already discussed, there can be certain challenges and constraints in relation to this port. First is the US sanction on Iran and shifting waivers. It has repeatedly complicated Indian investments, finance flows and private sector participation. Also, the Chabahar port is vulnerable to the region's current geopolitical climate, including the failure of JCPOA negotiations. Also, there's a commercial scale versus regional rivals. See, compared to Gwadar's natural deep draft and potential throughput, Chabahar's initial capacity is smaller. It needs investment to scale to a transshipment or industrial hub, which is why, to overcome these challenges, the government needs to have a proactive approach towards building Chabahar and also diplomatically handle the issue very carefully. See, since the start we've been talking about Chabahar, which is located in Iran and India. Now let us try to understand about the angle of Iran and China. See, Iran's increasing reliance on Beijing could hurt Indo-Iranian competition and potentially halt connectivity projects. India has expressed concern about the agreement due to the 25-year trade agreement between Iran and Beijing. So this is again one of the challenge. Another challenge can be the delays. See, delay in fulfilling the obligation of developing the Chabahar port and Chabahar-Zedan railway route on the India's part. That can be a major challenge. And also the JCPOA, the deal, also known as the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. The JCPOA was the result of the negotiation from 2013 and 15 between Iran and P5+1. Now under the deal, Iran agreed to significantly cut its stores of centrifuges, enriched uranium and heavy water, all key components for nuclear weapons. Now Iran also agreed to allow inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, to assess its nuclear sites, and these remain the recurring challenges with respect to India's relationship with the Chabahar with Iran is concerned. See, till now we have discussed a lot about Chabahar port in India, but let us just zoom out and see the status of economic ties between India and Iran. See, India-Iran bilateral trade during financial year 2022-23 was around $2.3 billion, showing a year-on-year growth of around 21.7%. Also, India's export to Iran was around $1.6 billion and India's import from Iran was around $672 million. total trade decreased by 23.3% compared to the corresponding figure of the previous year. India mainly exported agriculture goods, livestock products to Iran, including meat, milk products, onion, garlic, and canned vegetables. Also, imports from Iran, including methyl alcohol, petroleum bitumen, liquefied butanes, apples, liquefied propane, dates, and almonds. Now, the FDI inflow from Iran to India were at around USD 1 million from April 2000 to December 2023. Now, India importing Iranian oil or not, again, it depends because of the US sanctions on Tehran. It is again a tricky part. But conclusively, after knowing about the economic ties between India and Iran, we can very carefully and clearly see that besides these economic ties and within these economic ties, the major role is played by the Chabahar Port, which provides India an alternative trade route. See, that alternative trade route is important for India because it is geopolitically significant. Second, it cut down our cost, and third, it makes us bypass Pakistan. And it makes us dominant in that particular region as well, which is another geopolitical significance of ours. Now, since one particular project can provide all the benefits to a country like India, the US must not strike those facilities which are controlled and managed by India in the outside world. So this current attack on the Chabahar port, of course, did not go well with India, and of course apprehensions will be there in future that such kind of attack is not repeated and shouldn't be a loss to the taxpayers' money of India. I hope you gained a new perspective from the session. Do let me know what are your views regarding this. All the very best. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.